What is up, winning team? Hello, everybody. Welcome or welcome back. And today we are continuing in our current book series, Beyond the Veil, exploring the bubble theory and the fourth dimension. So we're going to be in chapter 13 today, and we are just recovering from the huge detour we did yesterday. You guys need to go check out all those videos. I was talking about a theoretical particle physicist who basically burst the seams of truth in exposing just why science might not be as trustworthy as we think it is. These would be the previous, I think, 4 or 5 videos in this whole series in the playlist. So go and check out all of those videos because it's quite interesting and it actually adds a lot to what we've been talking about. Today we're continuing in chapter 13, which of course you guys know that we've done the other 12 chapters. We're going to get straight into it. If you want to know about why we're doing this, what this is all about, you want to watch the introduction video, which is linked in the description box below, alongside all the other videos in the playlist, all the other chapters and everything. If you would like to purchase the book, this is written by an author by the name of Jamil Chamberlain. You can also purchase the book. I've got the link to the Amazon link in the description box as well. And if you are a science freak like myself, if you want to get into the nitty-gritties, into the details, into the nooks and crannies of it all, go and look at the final link in the description box where he goes into more detail than this book, which of course, as it says, a beginner's journey into higher dimensions and modern physics. So this is more just for everybody and anybody to be able to understand science. And also just bouncing off of what was said in the previous part, one of the things that she highlighted a lot, which I think is quite fascinating, is this idea that scientists have been purposefully making all of this scientific stuff sound more complicated than what it actually is. And part of the reason is if we, the public, think that a certain group of people are just more intelligent, A, we're inclined to trust them. B, we're going to assume that whatever they're saying goes over our head, so we don't even really listen to if it makes any sense. And C, that opens the door for them to be able to essentially say anything, and we just believe it because we just assume that we don't have the intelligence to understand. So that's something I also wanted to highlight, what I think is great about this. And this is very counter science cultural, explaining things. I've said this to people many times, that I believe that the things of the sciences should be understandable to everyone, right? We shouldn't be in a situation where, you think you're stupid because you can't understand something. As I learned doing my own research paper, we were told, if you really understand your research, you should be able to explain it to a child, exactly what you did. So there you go. Let's get into it. Chapter 13, The Journey of Discovery. Redefining reality. Have you ever pondered the nature of reality and our place within it? The bubble theory challenges conventional notions, inviting us to envision a universe that extends beyond the three-dimensional fabric we perceive. This chapter delves into the philosophical implications of the bubble theory, exploring how it redefines our understanding of existence, consciousness, and the very essence of reality. So as I said, if you want to know how we got here, the rest of us who've been here, know how we got here and what the bubble theory is at this point. Go and do your research, go and do your homework and watch the rest of the videos, okay? Catch up with the rest of us. The nature of reality in higher dimensions. Beyond the observable universe, our perception of reality is confined to 3 spatial dimensions. Yet theories like the bubble theory suggest the existence of higher dimensional spaces. These additional dimensions offer a canvas where multiple universes coexist, interact, and influence each other in ways that transcend our everyday experiences. Perception and consciousness. If higher dimensions influence our universe, what does that mean for our consciousness and perception? The bubble theory posits that our awareness operates within the 3-dimensional constraints, yet it could be subtly influenced by the dynamics of the 4th dimension. Interesting. This interplay raises questions about the potential for consciousness to tap into higher dimensional information or experiences. Interesting. Yes. We've gotten to a topic that I talk about a lot on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who know, what is the thing that I hate about being a human? What is the thing I hate the most? Because I realized that utilizing this thing in my 3-dimensional understanding causes my own struggles, my own pain, my own stress. Anybody here from the winning team know where we're going? Existence and free will. In a universe where multiple bubbles interact and overlap, the concepts of destiny and free will take on new dimensions. Are our choices influenced by higher dimensional interactions? Does the overlap of bubbles allow for alternate realities where different choices are made? This was not where I expected for us to be going. These philosophical inquiries challenge us to rethink the foundations of autonomy and determinism. This is so fascinating to me because this is one of the things I've actually thought about when one of the questions I've had, and hence why I didn't really ask it yet, because I was like, surely the bubble theory has to talk about free will, because I'm thinking if there's multiple universes, right, multiple bubbles, and I'm obviously the results. I've said this before that I believe the whole world as it is as our society is, as the world is today, it is a collective group project of all of the decisions, all of the choices, and how all of us used our free will all throughout history. And that's where my whole fundamental concept and theory that entropy started with Adam and Eve. In the Bible, they were faced with two choices, the tree of life or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I would suggest that them choosing the tree of knowledge and good and evil, being humans that are limited both in intelligence, in time and whatnot and what have you, was an unwise choice, was always going to lead to destruction and eventually death on its own, just from the simple fact that as a human being, it is physically impossible for us to understand absolutely everything about everything and make the perfect choice in every single way all the time. So my question then goes to these multiverse things. How does that work in the multiverse concept? Because again, the other thing to suggest here is two things that are coming to mind. First of all, I'm thinking of the Spiderverse movies, right? Because, spoiler alert, the Spiderverse movies, well, the Spider-Man in general, is the first time I started to actually, because I had bought the comic, I bought one or some of the comics as a gift for somebody once. And so I was looking at like the different, the Spiderverse, just the idea of these different multiverse Spider-Men and like all these different things, like the canon events. Like, oh my gosh, I've just remembered I needed to make a video about Miguel O'Hara and Akainu from One Piece. Let me just remind myself that I need to write a note so I remember to make that video. So let me mention why I'm bringing up these people, right? This is all going to make sense. Just run with me. We're thinking in the broader sense. Like I said, science fiction is just scientists' way of addressing the anomalies and the unexplained answers for a lot of things without having to call it fact, even though there's enough kind of thoughts and theories that could suggest it is a possibility, right? So here's what I have to say about this, right? This is perfect. So my big reason for wanting to watch the third Spider-Verse movie, right, is because at the end of the Spider-Verse movies, we have Miguel O'Hara, who's in control of these, whatever you want to call them, watches, right? It reminds me of like the Ben 10 watches like Ben 10 used to have, but these watches like where you can switch through the different dimensions, right? And switch to these different places. Hear me out. And in that, obviously, Miguel O'Hara decides that Miles Morales doesn't get this watch because he anticipates, I believe, that he's going to do something different to the other Spider-Men, because the other Spider-Men have said that they all go through this canon event where they have like a family member that's a police officer that dies trying to save them or something like that, right? Now, I have a whole theory about that concept of this canon events that have to happen, because my thing is, well, I really want to see the third Spider-Verse movie because I know that the reason why obviously Miguel doesn't want Miles to realize is because Miles is going to have to realize that his father's going to have to die. And if he realizes that his father's going to have to die, he's going to try to stop his father from dying, and he's going to stop the canon event. And what's going to happen in the multiverse if Miles Morales stops the canon event of his father dying? I want to know the answer to that question. So when I discovered the other day that they're like, and the Spider-Verse movie might take another year, I was like, come on. I got to know what happens. And I really hope that they are going. Also, I'd like to be written. If anybody from who's writing in the Spider-Verse, I want to be written into the Spider-Verse. Okay. I want to be in one of the multiverses, and I want to be Spider-Man's like maths teacher or something, who's also secretly, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I want to be written into the Spider-Verse. Okay. Anyway, Sony, Marvel, you can find my email on my page, okay? Hit me up. I think I would make a great character to be in the in the multiverse. Anyway, it's not important. So the thing about Miguel O'Hara, and this is again where I think these concepts are fascinating, is Miguel O'Hara has no business being here in the first place, because you just as much as he's arguing that Spider-Man, Miles Morales is going to go against what he's supposed to do, the canon event, because he's going to discover that, oh, there's these canon events. The rest of them have already gone through it, so they kind of just know that it's already happened. He hasn't had it happen to him yet, right? In his version of where they're all crossing over in these various multiverses, right? Which this isn't insane to talk about with this topic, because this is exactly what we're talking about with the bubbles, right? So, but the thing is, Miguel O'Hara was never canonically bitten by a spider, which is another canon event, right? Even though there's all these things about what would have happened if the splodge, or whatever it's called, the splat, the dot, whatever that dude is, the one who's against Spider-Man, who's technically the reason that the spider was there to bite Miles Morales in the first place. Nevertheless, my argument is that I don't like Miguel O'Hara. Let's just get there first. I don't like him, okay? Because I feel like everybody else's stories, even if the canon events took place organically, there wasn't there wasn't somebody making it happen. But then I start to wonder if maybe he was the one making it happen, and the reason I care about he was the one making it happen is because he's the only person who wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider organically. Because whether this splodge dude like created the moved the radioactive spider so that Miles Morales would get bitten or not, the fact is Miles Morales didn't have an understanding of what was happening, which is actually technically also canonical with the other Spider-Man and Spider-Women also in the show. So I just find this whole concept of the Spider-Verse thing really interesting, and how somehow Miguel O'Hara, and I kind of look at Miguel O'Hara how I look at modern scientists, I can't lie, who take God out of the equation. Like, they want to be God in the story of the multiverses and of the universe. And so they control what we think. They control who has access, who has understanding. This is what we learned even in the last previous videos of everything. Even though they might not necessarily be the people that canonically found themselves coming across this knowledge. And so that's my thing with Miguel O'Hara. He's upset for Spider-Man for stopping a canon event, but the canon event that all Spider-Men start with is being bitten by a radioactive spider, which he doesn't even have. So that's just why I'm just like, it's funny. And then I thought about the fact that, you know, Spider-Man is the Prowler in another multiverse. So what was the difference, and how does the free will element all factor into this? So this is why I'm saying this is so interesting now. Like, this is really quite interesting. And this whole idea of consciousness, because now we've gone outside of just things that just happen because they're happening. Now we've like elevated to the point of consciousness. Like, what is consciousness in the S energy field? Let's have a read, guys. But I'm just trying to get you guys to understand where my thought tracks are with all of this stuff. Consciousness and the S energy field. The interface between mind and matter, the S energy field, as the governing force of higher dimensional interactions, could play a role in bridging the gap between consciousness and the physical world. Oh, it's getting spiritual all of a sudden. It's getting spiritual. Some philosophical interpretations suggest that consciousness might interact with the S energy field, influencing or being influenced by high dimensional dynamics. Potential for high dimensional awareness. If consciousness interacts with higher dimensions, this opens the door to experiences and knowledge beyond our current understanding. The bubble theory encourages us to explore the possibilities of higher dimensional awareness, where the mind could perceive or influence aspects of reality that are invisible to our three-dimensional senses. So again, I kind of, obviously being a woman, and this is why some of these topics I think are harder for these subjects that are very male-driven. One of the key parts of being a woman is intuition. If I tell you that I just have a strong feeling that so-and-so person is not to be trusted, or something bad is going to happen, there is no, you know what, guys, I'm gonna tell you a wild story. And I'm not going to tell you the wild story, but I'm going to tell you the truth of why I truly believe in the spiritual things, and why I can understand what's being said here. Once upon a time, there was one day, right? This actually happens to be my birthday. I've talked about this. It was my 21st birthday. If you want to know the story, it's juicy. Go and find it. But it's not the type of thing to share in a science video, so we won't talk about the details here. But let's just say, I've woken up that morning and I had such an overwhelming feeling that like I should not go. So my family was throwing a birthday party for me, a birthday barbecue, right? Or I should say my biological relatives. Anyway, so I that morning had the strongest feeling I should not go. I should not go. I was in a relationship at the time. I was like, I just feel like something bad is going to happen. All I'm going to say is that somebody nearly died that day because of things and information I didn't have that had been going on behind the scenes, and lies that had been told and games that had been played. And obviously that's humans, but on a spiritual level, something within me, this is why I don't question the Holy Spirit anymore. And when God gives me intuition, I don't guess anymore because of that day. I nearly had to watch one of two or both of people that I love die that day. Literally death, literal death, weapons included and all sorts, right? I know my life is a movie. And it was my intuition. And like looking back, it makes sense with this. It's almost as if a higher dimension influences, right? What does it say? Some philosophical suggest that consciousness might interact with the S energy from influencing or being influenced by higher dimension. If consciousness is higher dimension, if consciousness interacts with higher dimension, this opens the door to experiences and knowledge beyond our current understanding. So like in that moment, I had no understanding of what was going on. I didn't even in a physical world sense know, but something in another sense just told me. And I've had so many situations like that as a woman. Women we know. So these things are probably a lot more approachable to me to like understand. And the closer I get with God, the more these things happen. Implications for human experience. Understanding consciousness within the framework of the bubble theory could revolutionize our perception of self and reality. It invites us to consider that our consciousness might be more interconnected with the universe than previously thought, potentially influencing the very fabric of higher dimensional interactions. So I find this quite fascinating because, right, when I initially started to look into the dimensions before I'd like done this, one of the things that stuck out that I saw that a lot of scientists believe is that the only dimension that seems to create ripple effects in every dimension, because it's more than just the fourth dimension, right? I think they're up to like 12 or 13. I don't know how many dimensions they're up to. And how they explain that they've got there is another thing. But there's a lot of people who believe in these extra dimensions, right? One thing that a lot of scientists believed, and this is something that stuck out to me, that it seems that we as humans are technically, scientifically, the anomaly in all of the dimensions. As in, everything else kind of makes sense as to why it behaves the way that it behaves. And but we are kind of the anomaly in terms of we just and also not only are we the anomaly, when I say we, I mean us, the Homo sapien. Not only that, we also affect what happens in all the dimensions. So it's like our free will isn't just having effects in our dimension, it's having effects in other dimensions as well, right? And so this is, again, goes back to my example of Miguel O'Hara and the Spiderverse movies, right? And why I believe that this stuff is real. I think they just don't understand it because scientists are too close-minded to consider the spiritual aspect of it, or the consciousness as being said here, right? It's like Miguel O'Hara is, if you think about it, affecting all the multiverses based on his choices, which pushes to the idea that us as humans, for some reason, which I believe is because God created us to be powerful and he gave us power, he told us to have dominion, right? We affect what's happening in all the universes and the dimensions, right? And that's why I believe prayer works a certain way, because we're directing the spiritual world and we're directing the beings that are existing maybe in dimensions we can't physically see. That's why I believe when people say that, you know, what is it, the law of attraction, all these things that the world does is all just exactly what God says, which is exactly just diluted versions of what I believe is the truth, which is that, yeah, because God created the world, he created all these things, these dimensions. We have this dimension, which again, when did we become limited in the third dimension? I believe that was when Adam and Eve ate the fruit, because the Bible says, and their eyes were opened and they realized they were naked. So what did they see before? Even if you don't believe that story, what had they seen prior? What had they seen prior, right? That was different to their experience? Because it's almost as if whatever they saw before their eyes were opened was more valuable information than even whether they were naked or not. And I would go as far as to suggest that there is a possibility that prior to the fruit eating, and again, even that whole concept could be a 3-dimensional explanation for a 4-dimensional or 5th-dimensional potentially process. I believe that they essentially downgraded themselves with whatever they did. Hence why, instead of having a higher sense of understanding and knowledge, where they probably understood some of what's in this 95% of the dark matter of our universe, they now reduced themselves to a 3rd-dimensional experience, and all of us, where we see some things and we can understand some things, but it's clear that what we understand isn't the full picture. So I'm going to leave that there for now as a thought, and then we're going to go into the implications of free will. in terms of this, or do I do this here? I don't want to make the video too long. We'll do it separately. Yeah, then we'll go into the implications of free will. So yeah, buckle up and stay tuned. I know these videos are insane and crazy, but you know, that's why I told you guys from the beginning, the reason why I wanted to look into the dimensions of the universe is because I believe eventually science is going to explain God. I believe that the battle to separate God and science is a plot of the losing team. Eventually, I believe if there's people humble enough, like myself and probably, you know, Jamil, the author, etc., we will get to a point where science will explain God. Anyways, you guys, if life's a game, let's play to win. If you want to hear more, we'll go into part 2 where I'll do about the implications for free will. And like I said, everything's linked in the description box, the book, the playlist, the deep dive. Go check it all out. See you guys in part 2, because if life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.